Hey, how's everyone doing? Welcome to Monday's sound design sessions. Hey Bishop91, hey Isomatic, MV Beckham, Arik, Simple Sam, good to see some familiar faces and names. How's everyone doing? Hope you all had a good weekend. This should be a fun one. In the past we've touched on, I think, kicks. We did one called Kicks in Depth, but this is drums as a whole for sound design. Hey Mr. Nobody, hey Hydrotech, how's everyone doing? Hope you've all had a either music-filled weekend or a music-filled day. Hey, MB Beckham. Oh, also notice. Oh no, my camera's a bit too high up, but I'm repping the brand today. Check it out. Yeah, I believe you can pick these up on somewhere. I always see it floating around on the ADSI YouTube channel. So yeah. But yeah, I've got mine in a nice green. It's probably about as Christmassy as I can get. Hey Furman, nice to have you here for your first live. Hopefully not your last. If you like what you see here, it'd be awesome to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, ding the bell icon, and you'll be able to catch future ones. Oh, you guys have already got t-shirts. Nice. Awesome. Tag us in your Christmas t-shirts, even though they're not Christmassy at all. Anyway, so yeah, please let me know what you are hoping to get out of today. Who here has got a bit of experience, or who here is basically a sound design god when it comes to drums? I'd be interested to know. So yeah, we're going to be in this stream. I want to just basically disclaimer, I'm going to use completely stock plugins. I might end up eating my own words there, but I'm trying to keep this really like anyone can do this. You know, it doesn't matter what DAW you're in, what tools you have. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Serum for today, but you can do it with any wavetable synth. So you could literally do it with Ableton Wavetable, or I'm saying wavetable, you don't need a wavetable synth. You just need a synth that can produce a sine wave. So I'm going to create today a kick, a hat, a snare, and even a really unique way to create percussion and top loops. And yes, we're going to get all that done in one ambitious hour. I'm getting ahead of myself. I've made drum sounds using the Uno. Oh, I did a bit of content on Uno Synth Pro. Awesome synth. I think they're the Pro and the desktop one. Really great unit. Ah, they do an orange t-shirt. Interesting. Okay, enough of my big camera. So this is our session, and again, I don't know if it's a UK British thing, but Art Attack, they used to do, here's one I've made earlier. So just to give people a bit of an idea before they, if you want to stick around, I try to give you an incentive to stick around. This is the sounds that I've created completely from sine waves, and literally nothing from here is even a found sound. It's just bare bones synthesis. And this is for the hat, the snare, the kick, and the top loop. And hopefully we're going to have time to get through all of this. Anna 2, of course you could do it in Anna 2. Yep, I've got Anna 2 as well. But yeah, honestly, I think anything that produces literally a sine wave, and even if you don't have in fact, you can pick up a free copy of, you can get Ableton demo or something, and that'll have a sine wave generator in it or anything like that. So there is basically no excuse to not be able to make these sounds. Used to play on the TR-808 and Elisa's drum machine native. Awesome, yeah. Yeah, I'm doing Ableton for sound design stuff, still using Studio One for bits of mixing and stuff, but just decided Ableton was the way to go for me for sound design. So I need my glasses on to be able to see what I'm doing. I'm just checking. Yeah, the synths, those IK ones are really, really fun. You need noise for the hats. Very good point, Simple Sam. I've already ate my words. Sine waves for everything but the hats. Again, white noise, you could probably literally create that out of thin air. Honestly, none of this stuff, really none of this stuff requires, you literally need a laptop. You don't need any fancy synths. You don't even have to buy any stuff for this. I'm pretty sure you could get like free digital audio workstation that'll do this stuff. You could maybe even do it on an app on an iPad. But basically, the incentive behind this video was, again, we'll get going in just a couple of minutes. For anyone who's new here, basically I'll answer the questions as they're coming through, or I will pick them up at the end. If you have any questions, please let us know, and like I said, I'll pick them up, or maybe put them in our Discord server and I can answer them throughout the week along with lots of other people there. Very friendly community. So basically, I was always struggling, a while back now, I was always struggling with drums, and the reason is because they're very specific to the track. I don't know anyone else who feels this way, but I sometimes write a piece of music and I'll drop some samples in and sort of just get the idea and the inspiration and the motivation for the track going, and then I might come back and do sound replacement. And the reason for that is picking the right sounds for a track is just as important, if not way more important, to be honest, than the mixing or the mastering. And I found that a lot of my issues were basically the drums just weren't fitting my track, so I decided I'm going to create my own drums that suit my tracks because I'm designing them around the track rather than creating a track around a set of samples. But also, this is not to say you have to create them from scratch. You could maybe take drum samples and maybe tweak them to your liking. So you'll definitely pick stuff up from that as well in this video. So if you want to design them from scratch, this is the video for you. If you want to maybe manipulate and tweak existing samples you have, this is also the video for you. So, like I said, everything is in Serum. No reason to need the Serum X for Serum. You could do it in Pigments. You could do it in Ableton Wavetable. You could do it in Logic's go-to thing, whatever it's called. I've completely forgotten the name of it, but you get the point now. Just a couple before I get going. Stream I've been waiting for months. I agree, Ableton is best for sound design. That's awesome, Blaze. Nice to have you here. Furman, do you tune your drums to the track of the key? It depends, but yes, sometimes I do. Sometimes the kick locks in a lot better with the bass if it's tuned, but I think also, if you've seen that video of Deadmau5 talking about stuff like that, I think he'd kill you because I seen a video about tuning drums and he went ballistic. But anyway, so this is the kick that we have. And by the way, I'm bussing these all, and that'll be part of the video. And I'm bussing these all with basically whatever we have down here. So I have EQA, saturator, multiband, amp, drum bus, and then a bit of glue, and yeah, and some soft clipping, some limiting. So this is the kick. And the point of this is, some of you might think, if you were to drag these samples into your track, they might not work, but if you have these samples, you can constantly tweak them, and you can make your own. I really think that we've gotten to this stage now of like, you know, you just get stuff from anywhere and so many libraries and stuff. And I think the best thing you can do is start to learn how to do this stuff yourself, because the creative control will make you such a better producer by understanding sound design. So this is the hats. Again, just to reiterate, all this stuff took me not that long to do whatsoever, and it shouldn't take you guys long to do at all. An interesting snare. Okay, and then tops. Okay, so it's an interesting one for the tops, to say the least. I'm just going to grab my phone to get the comments. My second screen has decided to die for your comments. I actually noticed Tatro did this in his stream. He was following along with the comments. Okay, good. I'm still here if you want to get some comments. Anyway, so yes, so these are the tracks that we're going to be creating today, and like I said, I do have the bus processing going on this drum bus here, and that's not too essential to the sound. It does group them and really makes them a lot more cohesive, but that's not essential. What's important is we can learn how to just do these things from scratch. So here's the kick track. So this is Serum, and it's on a separate screen. Okay, and I'll just make it a bit bigger for you guys. Okay, so I'm gonna get to see the mini Christmas tree. Is the Christmas tree poking out somewhere? Is it? Okay, so this is the kick patch, just to show you from the get-go, and we're gonna design it from scratch. So for this, like I said, really we're just going to need sine waves and some noise profiles if you need them. They're not 100% essential. Again, you could even probably do the hat without the noise oscillator. You could just pitch up a certain waveform and absolutely slice it and cut it EQ wise, but let's start with initial preset. So here we go. If I go to my basic shapes, you guys know that basic shapes is where I live in Serum. I'm going to have something that doesn't really sound like a kick drum whatsoever. But the funny thing is, there's not much that we have to do here whatsoever. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to start off by basically doing a combination of things. Again, I know that there's been a video where I've created a kick, but this is just part of this this task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take LFO1 and I'm going to basically use this to modulate a couple of different things. The way you want to think about every single drum sound is, think of it like this. You have the transient, the body, and the tail. So the transient is the initial click and what really hits you in the gut per se. The body is the meat and the potatoes of the sound, and the tail is the way that it dies. So even understanding the way a kick looks can help you to design the sound of it to some degree, because you can visualize the way that you should shape your envelopes. So the way we start off with this basically is I will take LFO1, I'm going to use it to modulate the coarse tune of a sine wave. You can then hold down Shift and Alt, and if you're not using a Mac, I don't know if that's the right command, so if that's the case, head into Matrix and just change the direction of the coarse pitch value. So what we're doing here is we're basically achieving pitch modulation. So what we're doing is we're using this LFO to modulate the coarse frequency of the oscillator. So if I play it now, it still sounds absolutely garbage, and that's because our LFO is not in the correct sort of mode. So what we need to do is we need to change it from the mode to envelope and take out BPM. This way it's going to react to basically hertz and frequency. So this way we have more control over it, and it dies off at the end. So now what we need to do is we need to shape said kick. And the way I'm going to do that is by shaping it like this. And let's take it down an octave. Okay, it's getting there. What we need to do then is we need a faster rate. And there we go. We're starting to get the characteristics of a kick. I'm just going to go into my second software here and just amplify the level of Ableton a bit more. Okay. So, like I said, you can change this value here in the matrix, and that basically changes the start and pitch value. And then if we do a negative value, the pitch will change modulation in the opposite direction. You can control all this from here though. So that's very, very good. As you can hear, it's starting to take on a little bit of the character of a kick. We're mainly achieving the body of the sound here. Okay, so we've got the pitch modulation working. It's heading in the right direction. If you think about kicks in the real world, like a physical kick drum, think about the way the beat hits the skin of the tom. And if you've ever heard that sound, which I imagine all of you have, just think about the way the sound sort of evolves and dies over time. And the pitch basically goes boom, it decreases. So now what we need to do is we need to shape the actual shape of the waveform with our main VCA, and that's in envelope 1 here. And I'm just going to shape the sound of the kick now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the sustain down. I like to use this control here to zoom in and get a bit closer. Okay. Obviously, we need a fast attack time. Ever so slightly longer release, just so we don't get any clicks when we're going to cycle through. Okay, it's starting to sound quite close to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a filter, and I'm going to choose a filter in the opposite direction, because obviously the low end is vital here. And I'm going to use the same envelope. You could use another LFO, by the way. But I'm going to use that to modulate the cutoffs frequency. I'm just going to pull this, and the reason being is I want this to basically just change the sound of the EQ, because again, I'm thinking about what does this actually sound like in the real world, and immediately you've got a lot more thud and then it sort of dies away. So let's have a look. And let me try a couple of different filter types. I'm going to drive this filter. And we start to get a little bit click coming through there as well. Okay, I need that rate to be ever so slightly quicker. Okay, cool. Now what we could do is we could introduce a noise oscillator. This is not essential, but Serum does come with all of these kicks in it, so we might as well put them to good use. Sounds horrific, so we need to put it in a one-shot mode. And we can use this to basically add to the transient the sound. Remember, it's transient, body, and tail. Again, I'm going to use an LFO. I'm going to go for a different LFO this time. Always take it out of the off mode and take out BPM mode. And again, I'm just going to use this to sort of achieve, you're just trying to manipulate the sound of the real sort of source material. And again, let's just bring this, I'm going to bring this down here. Leave it at 50 just for the sake of keeping it original. And now we're going to dive into the effects section. So I'm going to first of all add some distortion, and this is because I need to introduce some more harmonics into the signal path, and this will be very useful further down the line when I am going to do mixing and stuff. So beefens up the body. Again, I keep trying to remind people that it's all about the transient and the body and the tail. So what we've got now is we've got this drive control, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use again an LFO. I didn't realize this is all the way up here. Add a new point here. This is just me going back on a previous mistake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another LFO. I might as well put them to good use to control this drive knob. Again, out of envelope, out of BPM. Okay, let's drive this a bit more. Okay, again, this should not be getting punchier for sure. Okay, let's turn on the compressor. So the multiband does reveal a lot of the transient material, but it has also sort of made our body disappear a bit. It's certainly got a lot of punch. And then we're distorting the living crap out of it, and probably your ears. Let's do before and after with this. Again, I'm not too fussed about using a ton of this. I'll bring up the gain. I don't want to use a ton of it, but just a little bit. And the last thing I'll do here is I'll introduce an EQ, and I'm going to use this to try and, again, bring up a little bit more of the thud in the bottom. Again, none of this is like, you know, prescriptive. You can do whatever sounds good to your ears. In fact, I could even modulate the gain here. Sort of working like a dynamic resonant filter there. Okay, I'm just going to up the level. Okay, just quickly see some of these. Busta Rhymes, okay, yeah. When you make your adjustments, do you use a mouse or a MIDI controller or the keyboard controller knobs? I'm using a MIDI controller here, MV Beckham. When you make your adjustments, do you use a mouse or a MIDI controller? Again, I could use parameters, but I'm using my mouse mostly. Sometimes adjust the release of the multiband, reduce the artifacts. Yeah, good point, for sure. Basically, it's just like a traditional attack and release control, but it's probably, so what was your, to reduce the artifacts? Okay, interesting, yeah. exactly. I love people's opinions, so keep these things coming in. It's interesting to hear how everyone has a slightly different method. So anyway, this is good enough, and we can work with it further down the line. That's what I want to I don't want to get too hung up on spending forever in Serum creating a kick drum, you know. I would say that you should try and allocate a session though for sound design, and then a session for actually, you know, using these samples in music is totally separate, but make these in a different session, otherwise it'll interrupt your creative flow. Now, this is something that I feel like an idiot for. I never realized this button up here in Serum is literally non-existent unless you are hovering over here, right? But look, you can drag and export this kick drum out of here. So traditionally I would have been playing the MIDI and bouncing it to audio, but did you know you can just drag it like that? I didn't. I might have been using Serum for about, I don't know, 6 years, 5-6 years or more. So yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, so this is where our kick. I'm going to go to the snare folder. So if we head over here now. Yeah, Bishop, me too. I couldn't believe it when I found it out. I don't know why it's such a useful feature, but why is it hidden away? So it's something that is so useful. Okay, also guys, if you're watching it, yeah, I think, right, so basically no one knows about that thing in Serum. I couldn't believe it. If you're watching this and, you know, maybe you don't have the time, but you'd like your own sort of some starting ground of snare, kick, hats, and maybe percussion top loop, I will give these presets away in the Discord, so you can grab these if you feel like this is a little bit too advanced for you. Maybe you can grab them and then analyze them further, or just put them to use in your tracks. So you will be able to grab these throughout the week. That is a truly life-altering. I could not believe it when I found it out. Could not believe it. Up here. But it's because you don't see it unless you hover over it, you see. So thanks, guys. Thanks, X for Serum. Okay, so the snare, I would say, is probably one of the hardest ones to recreate with electronic sort of in electronic format, and the reason being is it's hard to achieve the sort of characteristics of a traditional snare. But with that being said, we can get it to a certain point, and then we can sort of go from there with the whatever we do in Serum. My approach is I have something really, really basic and almost boring, and then I resample it later on using a different sampler and tweak it further. So this one, I'm using a triangle, but honestly, I'm just using a triangle to save myself a little bit of room with lots of various harmonic distortion. But triangle is basically a sine wave with just more harmonics. Honestly, that's all it is. It's got odd and even harmonics. People are still going crazy about this feature in Serum. Am I the first person to discover it? Okay, so in this one, someone did point out that I had to eat my words. I am using a noise oscillator. Actually, I did use the kick attacks folder in the last one. Not that you had to use that, it just beefens up the transient. But here I'm using it, and I'm also using it for the top layer as well. Again, this snare is pretty straightforward. If you can see, I've barely even touched the VCA. It's mostly just LFOs doing the work here. So yeah. So let's just duplicate this one. I'm going to use a sine wave for this one. I'm going to keep this here just in case. So let's go for another initial preset so you guys can watch me do it. And I'll do this one with a sine wave. Okay. So, okay, so again, doesn't sound anything like a snare wave. I've never seen it in... I can't believe most snares sound like EDM snares unless you beef them up. Yeah, precisely. Great. A very good point. It's all about layering, and there's many ways you can do that, but I think that's for down the line. These are just sounds from scratch in Serum or whatever sort of VST or synth you're using, or maybe using a hardware unit, and then we can start to resample and take it further. So we'll go back to the same thing as before. We could probably even just duplicate that kick preset or just save the preset. Analog, basic shapes, you know the drill. And for this one, the only difference is just minor things really. What separates this from a kick's not a whole lot, to be honest. So again, we're going to be mainly modulating the levels and the characteristics of stuff to try and get it to sound close to a snare. So one thing I would say is the advantage over the triangle wave is you just get those upper harmonics. Again, I'd imagine everyone has access to these sort of waveforms, even if you haven't got money to buy anything specifically. So if just to compare, let me just bring this up for you guys. So there's a triangle. So it's just a little bit more harmonically rich, really. And I find that helps cut in the sort of mids and upper mids of a snare. So again, goodbye BPM and goodbye envelope, and I'm going to apply this to the course tune once again, head into the matrix and change the type of direction for that LFO. And then it's starting to sound like a Star Wars laser. So what we need to do is once again, let's pitch this down an octave. And let's go back into the matrix. Just to show you the different directions for anyone who's aware. Okay. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is basically take another LFO. I'll probably come back to LFO 1, do a bit more shaping. Take a second LFO, and I'm going to use this to automate the level. And again, let's check this out. My mouse is having a bit of a stick. It's sticking. Okay, slow down the... Okay, noise, I'm going to go for the same thing as before, just sort of like something like the AC hum, or white noise would work fine as well. Go for the ARP white. So again, let's apply another LFO to this one, and this is more for the tail of the sound. Okay, this needs to... Just going to tweak this waveform a little more. So I don't want too much of his pitch here. Just a tad. And then what I would do, by the way, is I would maybe I would pitch these later on and actually name them to middle C, basically. Okay, we could do a little bit more shaping, probably with our VCA here. Shorten the sustain a tad. Okay, I'm going to introduce some hyper on this one, and again, not really a fan of the actual hyper, it's the dimension that I like. Okay, and again a bit of distortion. And let's use another LFO on this. Let's go for a different format. Something with some clipping, sine shaper. And again, it's in the wrong mode. Let's try something different. Stomp box. A little bit more subtle. Compressor. Definitely the multi-band mode here. So this is making it sound a lot more like sort of snare per se. I'm just going to bring down... There we go. I'm just going to bring down the level of this a little bit. Now what you could do is you could play around with your pitch here. Basically I would go onwards from 0 is what I'm saying, because down here you're not going to hear anything, because it'll get cleared over by the oscillator array. Okay, and then the last thing I'll do is I'll do that EQ move again, but in a slightly different area. Broaden the Q, upper mids this time. And again, let's just put one more LFO to use, because why not? Okay, what about going backwards on it? So we actually emphasize it. That sounds good. And again, I hate how it defaults here, but... Okay, cool. So it's got a bit of body to it. It's got a bit of that tail to it. There's a lot more stuff we could do with this, but again, I want to leave that for resampling purposes. I am tempted to chuck a filter on it, actually. Let's chuck a filter on it. How are we doing for time, just to make sure? Oh yeah, we're okay. We're okay. Again, oh wow, let's use another LFO, because I said why not before. Just going to use this one. I'm just going to shape this kind of like, oh man, my mouse. Get with it, man. Right. Okay, let's change the... Don't want to lose too much body there. Again, drive it a little bit in the filter stage. Here before. It's a bit of a tighter sound. I think I'm going to bring the cutoff right down, actually. Okay, and again, going to our magic serum button. Anyone who missed it before, prepare to be amazed. That just doesn't get old. Wow. So a good indication that your samples are, you know, resemblant of anything drum-esque is literally visually by looking at them. So if we zoom in here and I use the incorrect zoom parameter, you can see, yeah, this resembles a kick and a snare. I think most people would understand what a kick and a snare looks like in, you know, they've worked with samples before. And there's a lot more we can do with these. A really important thing is I've left plenty of headroom, because what I want to do is I want to resample these and put them into further effects chains and maybe put them into samplers and take them further. And you can't, I mean, it's digital, so you can reverse the clipping, but you're just making your life a lot easier if you leave yourself headroom, because distortion will help with that, because it'll add some form of clipping to the form in either hard or soft clipping, and compression again will reduce the dynamic range. As you can see here, we've got that really nice, I think this is a perfect example, this kick actually. We've got that perfect sort of start of the, we've got the initial transient, the body and the beef, and then it tails off here, and likewise for the snare. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll do our hat, and this has got to be the easiest thing to create. So again, if you could just sample anything, you can create a hat, because it's basically just some form of noise. It doesn't even have to necessarily be it doesn't even necessarily have to be white noise. So this is the hat. Again, let me just initialize this preset, and then we're good to go. And then you'll be amazed at how simple it is to make a cool top layer. So I'm just going to quickly check if there's anything I can see. No. Okay. Anything vitally important I'll try and pick up at the end. So for this one, I'm just going to turn off my oscillator altogether, go to the same pink, well, the white noise. Didn't Hydra say something about pink before? There is a pink noise. Well, there's R pink. So one shot mode for this level. Let's use an envelope or an LFO to basically modify the level of this. Okay, and then let's just basically shape the VCA. And the thing I like about the hats is basically you can shape these and tweak them so easily just by altering tiny little adjustments to your envelope, your ADSR, and the pitch values. Really, it can really change the sound of it. Okay, and again, you'll see what I mean with that pitch knob in a second. And now I'm just going to introduce a low pass for the noise oscillator. Sorry, not a low pass, a high pass to let the highs pass through. We can make it much steeper, 24. And again, so playing with the decay and the LFO modulation rate and the envelope will really, no worries. Yeah, I thought there was a pink in it, but it could be an update thing. Someone else was talking about they couldn't drag samples onto the noise oscillator Hydrotech, so you can drag samples onto it. So I think it might be that some people maybe just need to give their serum an update. So yeah, with changing stuff like this, really will change the sound, because this controls how quickly the level opens and closes. And then changing your decay again, and the sustain really plays quite a big role in the sound shaping. So with all of these, I would save them in Serum or whatever you're using, and then, you know, you can come back to your starting point and tweak them in the future. But if you make good ones, you probably won't have to, because you'll have them in a folder somewhere in your DAW, or maybe store them in the ADSR Sample Manager, which is free. You can grab that on the site, and then you can use that as a storage place for every session. Drop them into your favorite sampler of choice, and you can change them and tweak them for every single session and every different track, you know. Okay, I'm going to come to the effects again. I'm going to put a little bit of this hyper on, just giving it a tiny bit of width, but not phasing issues, because that sounds awful. That compressor adds a lot more energy to it. Okay, so that's pretty much good enough for me. I could add more stuff, but why make it overtly complicated? This is what we got for this. And yeah, like I said, these will make big changes. To the sound. Okay, so that's cool. Let's pull this one out. And that's it, we're officially done with Serum. So the stuff that I had going on before, I'm just going to get rid of the kick, hats and snares, and completely, in fact, just for the sake of time, I know it's an incredibly boring progression, but I'll pull these into the drum bus just so I have the same sort of, actually I don't need the same pattern. I'll pull these in. To the drum bus. Did everything apart from putting them in the drum bus. Okay. And let's get rid of the, I'll keep the tops just because I like the processing I've done on it, and wow, I'm pleased with how I've done today time-wise. Okay, cool. So let's go, I'm just going to delete these. Okay, let's just get rid of this. And my organization won't let me do these without color coding them, even though this is never going to matter to any of you guys. So basically what I'd like to do now is I will go into either here and I can adjust them and change them, or ideally what I'd prefer to do is come into the instruments and drag in a sampler or a simpler, doesn't really matter, and I'm just going to pull these into here and rename this one kick and duplicate it and call this one snare, and this way we get a lot more control over them. I'm just basically, oh dear, I'm just basically resampling these things further. And lastly, hats, even though it's just the one hat. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on the kick one, I'm going to drag over my kick, and now he says without soloing it. can't hear it. Strangely can't hear it. Ah, wait, this bus is silly. Okay, same thing for the snare. Check user error, Brand. And same thing for our hat. Okay, I'm just going to mute these channels, and I'm just going to pull them. I'm just going to pull these out of here, and I don't need the serum stuff anymore, really. Again, hide that top layer. So now I've got these samples. There's basically this reason. The reason I'm doing this is basically I can save these samples as a sort of starting point in my, for example, in Ableton. I can save these, and these are my very own samples that I've created, and I can always come and tweak them. But there's more stuff I can do in here, basically. If we expand upon this waveform, I can see the image a bit better up here. And this is what we created before. Sounds quite good. So now what I can do is I can basically process everything in here using just a really nice simple sampler. And this is where I can take my sounds further, and then I can take them further again by doing actual processing on them, and then group processing, and so on and so on and so on. So what I can do is I can change the amplitude and pitch envelopes. So not that you would want to change the attack and stuff, but you would want to maybe change the decay and the sustain. Depending, again, it's completely subjective to your track. So if you want to tweak it for maybe, for example, this just would not work for a lo-fi track, okay? But maybe by doing some small tweaks, you can make it work for a lo-fi style track. Maybe transposing it. Or maybe you can make it work for more of a techno track. Or maybe you could maybe put multiple of these kicks that you've created on maybe 2 or 3 different samplers. You know, they're all going to be in phase because they're all the same sample. But maybe you change their frequency. And you can do all of this basically within just a simple, really simple sampler. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, like this. But there's a lot of good stuff that you can do here. And there's, again, different modes. And we can view it here, and we can change the chopping regions as well. We can layer them. So that's really useful. And likewise, we do all this the same stuff for our snares. So I would most likely change this one the most, if I'm completely honest. I just seen someone from Facebook can't drag the sample, so I'd imagine you just need to update Serum, because can other people, unless I have some godly version of Serum, which I don't believe I do, can other people maybe, if you're at your desktop or laptop, check that you guys can do the same thing in Serum? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly do some sort of pattern here. So kick. Let's go for the old, I'll go back to my kick. And just go for the default C3. Oh, not copied over where I wanted it. Okay. So our kick from scratch, we can get it to work a bit more as we go on. Okay, let's take the exact same part for the snare. Okay, again, that one I'll be working with a bit more. And then we have our hat layer. And again, probably take this same thing and just make it a bit more sporadic. Wow, that's really much more. I think this is more what it was after. the snare. Everything else sort of is close enough. What filler choices have I got here? Let me try. As you can see, I could spend a while here. If you're going to pitch them around like this, maybe do them at 96. Okay. Cool. I think just a bit of transient shaping would be quite cool on that sound. And just, yeah, a little bit more. You could even do some pitch modulation here, you know. You could do stuff in the pitch envelope. Do negative value. This is just like what we did in Serum, by the way. But we're not going to do that. Okay, so this is the pattern we have. I believe all these are going to the bus. So on the bus, I've just got a little bit of EQ. Saturation really helps bring up the level of the stuff. And then we also have the multiband. Again, this is really nice tool to be used on all sorts of stuff. Just be careful with the amount. Actually, I'm using quite a bit here. The amp is just for some ridiculous fun. Drum bus is really good. Again, all this stuff exists in other DAWs and other formats. But basically, it's just a nice quick tool to use, and it's really, really great. I am using a little bit of this thing here, which is really cool. And then I have the glue sampler. Sadly, my screen sort of faded away towards the bottom, so I could just about see this. Yeah, good. And then I've got glue compressor with soft clipper on. Let's just hear all this stuff together. Going through the drum bus. I'm dying to layer the snare up with another one, but I'm just trying to keep it really simple. But yeah, I would like to. Hydra's got, it's the most. I feel like I added maybe a little bit too much pitch modulation. I've got too much. I've got too much pitch on it basically, and then when I lower it, I'm losing a little bit of the body. But this is why it's worth saving it in Serum, and then you can go back to that and tweak it. I've still got it there, but for the sake of 5-10 minutes, I'm not going to go back. But in hindsight, I probably would have done less on the coarse pitch modulation. But I'm really quite happy with the kick and the hats. They're really easy and quick to do. Honestly, you can do these in 5 minutes a piece. The unique one is the tops layer. So the tops layer, let me duplicate this. So we're going to just get rid of, basically, I'll keep the sampler. I'm literally going to get rid of all of this stuff. So again, I'm just trying to be showing you the power of a sine wave. So if we go back to, this one's really interesting. If we go back to Serum and literally just do an initialize preset. And I'm going to head over to the, you guessed it, sine wave. I'm just going to drag this out, right? And then literally it's just dragging out a sine wave. And that would sound like this. Yep, you all know what it sounds like, I'd imagine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this in a sampler and reduce a lot of its envelopes to use it as a top layer. And as you can see, I've already dragged it in here, but for the sake of just showing you exactly what it is that I've done, I'm using it on this layer, aren't I? Yeah. There you go. It's literally the same thing, but what I'm doing is I'm using a sine wave and I'm filtering it, and I'm doing this to create a top layer. So for those of you who don't know, a top layer, percussion layer, is just like some sort of rhythmic figure that's usually got mainly high-end information. It sort of adds a groove, and I'm, again, just in the most basic sampler here, but a really great one. And classic mode, I'm just filtering out, say, to about 1K, and there's so many things I can do with just even a sine wave. So you can imagine the kind of percussion and top layers you can create if you drop stuff that's more interesting than a sine wave in here. So use your field recordings or, you know, custom wavetables or anything, or instruments, doesn't matter. You can probably create a cool top layer out of them. So obviously this is what we started with. Filtering it out and alter the decay and maybe change the transposition. Okay, now where this gets really fun is, so here's one I made earlier. Here's the top layer that I did from before, okay? So what I did on here is just had some fun. So this has got a saturator on it, chorus, so let me put these on one by one. So the saturator is adding the harmonic distortion. The spectral resonator is where things get really interesting. So what I would suggest is, in the sampler here, maybe spread the stereo information. So you can do that here in spread. Just sort of creating like a bit of a Haas effect. Mitch Murder? I'll come back to your comment in a couple of seconds, Squackles, but I'm not entirely sure who the artist is. So the saturator, without it, beefing up the signal. I'm using medium curve. Chorus. Then there's vinyl from Isotope. Not necessarily. Now the echo one is really cool. So, my taskbar. If I had more time, I would create another resampling track in Ableton. And again, you could just do this to any DAW. It's very easy in Ableton, I must admit. And I would resample the sort of moves that I'm making here on the echo, because when I alter the times here, it creates such a cool sound, and resampling, I would get all of those in fluctuations. I'm at 2.4% wet. Here we go. Sounds so nice. And you've got modulation in here. So the spectral resonator basically is going to give me the resonation of basically boosting a value, a Q value. And yeah, I'll just play this one. There's so many things you can do with this. I've got it in this chorus mode here. This one is probably specific to Ableton Live, but I just thought I'd show you anyway. Granular mode's interesting. There's a lot of things you can do with this one, and reducing the harmonics. Again, if I change the pitching of this, maybe open the decay, you could even create like bass notes out of this. But we're not going to use that. We're going to use the echo. Okay, that'll do for now. Okay, and let's see how this works in context with, so we've got our kick, our snare, our hats, our tops. If you're just tuning in, you can grab all the presets that I did in Serum throughout the week if you sign onto our Discord server. Again, completely free, not trying to sell you anything here. And if you found this useful, please hit the subscribe and the bell icon for future. These happen every Monday. We do take into consideration suggestions. This is based off basically user feedback. A lot of people wanted to learn how to do drums, so I thought, well, people want drums, let's do drums. So if you have any suggestions, please, let us know. We'll see if we can figure something out. And yeah, this is what we've got now. So we've got all of this basically from sine waves, more or less, and some a little bit of noise oscillator, with just noise profiles and noise samples. Let me check this one. So I could do a lot of stuff with this top layer. So one way I could really go over the top of this stuff is with, how are we doing for time? Wow. Okay. Is with basically distortion and limiting. So here's what happens when you put all of that through the amp on heavy mode. Yeah, Furman, thanks for sticking around as well. Hope you enjoyed this first live stream. I love Herbie Hancock. Yeah, we do have tutorials, and we also just did a course by yours truly on compression, which is on our ADSR website. If you go to the courses tab, if you'd like to learn about compression. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. If you want to know more of these, though, just tune in every Monday. These are completely free. So yeah, you could do a little bit of that. Or maybe you could slam compression. Dial it in, dry wet. These different modes make a big difference. Okay, and then the other thing is the drum bus is really cool, because the transient shaper here, compression on. Again, go and practice and try these things out, because I've just made all these sounds in this live stream. If you're just tuning in, I've made all these sounds from scratch. None of this existed before this live stream. So yeah, and then the only other thing I like to use is this Punks from a company that honestly I've never heard of. A friend put me on them, and it's basically a transient shaper, but it's just really nice with the visualizer. And yeah, I like this a lot. If I hone in on the drum bus a little bit and show you what I'm doing with it. Use this to flatten the peaks, soft clipping mode, and I can change the length of them. Mix in paste, go back the drum bus, and yeah, I think that's a pretty good place to finish off. So all these sounds were from scratch. I would suggest that you basically have some drum sounds that you save as a preset in Serum, and then you can come back to them and tweak them if you need to, but bounce them out. In fact, you don't even have to bounce them out. You can pull them from Serum, and then you can use them. And basically what I could do now is I could come into these individual folders, go like this, click save, and say ADSR kick. Now, every time I need my kick, I can just pull it into my session. He says, there we go, pull it into the session, and I can just start to shape it to fit my track, which is the entire purpose of this video, is basically I'm going to then have a good starting point for the tracks, and I can maybe start to layer multiple versions, multiple samplers with my kicks in them that I've designed, and I can maybe refine this further. I've done this, on a time constraint, but you've got these, you can store them, you can save these. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful, and like I said, you can grab all this stuff for free, but please follow along. Also, it makes much more use when you actually put it into practice. Right, I'm just going to go through a couple of your comments. Someone had a question. Furman, do you do mixing tutorials? Yeah, so Jane, that's right, Simple Sam. Jane Arneson did some of that stuff for sure. She will be back in the new year. There we go. I'm just going through. Okay, thanks. Yeah, thank you. So I'm pleased you enjoyed that, Furman. You enjoyed that live stream. If you just tuned in, you can obviously just wind back the clock and watch it all over again. Spend countless hours trying to find samples and combine them to make a snare sample similar to Mitch Murder. Still not even close. Okay, stick it in the Discord, Squackles, if you join our Discord server, and I'll be happy to jump on a conversation with you and try and help you out on that one. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, and you haven't had a chance to get them in, like I said, Discord is the place to do it. Cool. So I hope you all enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. I feel like a lot of people shy away from doing. A lot of people shy away from doing, drum sound design just because it maybe seems a bit elusive and confusing, but honestly the majority of it is just sine waves layering, and always try and remember the fundamentals of transient, body and tail. And then honestly I could have gone a lot further with this, but really the rest of it is just layering and refining the sound. But I would suggest get a good starting bass and then basically save these, bounce them out to some form of audio. You're creating your own little collection of samples, so your own sample pack, if you will, and then you can, just continue to resample and layer these with other things. The way I would make these sound a lot better, but obviously this video is all about creating them from scratch, is I would layer these with field recordings. I would go out with my, I've got a Zoom H6 and a couple of microphones, and I would either layer, found sounds, or you could layer actual kick drums, or anything with, something that has a good resemblance of a transient, something with a really good transient. Like literally anything like a hammer could be a good transient because of its initial attack. Or something maybe to add more beef to this. The best drum samples really are where synthesis and real sounds come together. On their own, they're not as strong as they are when they come together. So blending found sounds and synthesized sounds together is where you get the best results with everything, not just drums. So anyway, hope that was good for you guys. I'll just be signing off again. My other computer has basically died on me, but yeah, cool. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys next Monday. Hope you have a good run up to the festive season, and let us know how you get on with the drum sound design. It'd be really interested to know in the Discord. Tag me at Sound and Vision if you have any more questions that you'd like to address. And also, if you're wondering what to get anyone for Christmas, this bad boy right here. All right, I'll catch you guys next week. Have a great week.